Hey there, lads and ladies of the internet. Got rubber plants? Want to learn how to keep them happy? Listen, this is your chance to learn all about these plants. So put on some pants and stick the fuck around. Cause in this video, we fit to get into all that shit. Really though, Phil, put some pants on, okay? It's getting a little weird. Hey there, I'm Smith Kingston, houseplant guru extraordinaire. Joining us today we have Kalanchoe, Toby McSchmuter, and the strikingly attractive Lady Space Cowgirl.
Oh my gosh.
Alrighty, lads and ladies, these elastic allies here are known commonly as rubber plants or rubber trees, and known scientifically as Ficus elastica. They are native to Southeast Asia and Indonesia, and in their natural habitat they can reach up to 50 feet in height. Even grown indoors though, older trees will grow as tall as you will let them if you keep them in the right condition. While most naturally produced rubber today comes from the South American Para rubber tree, these broadleaf beauties do produce a milky white sap that is very rich in isoprene, and much of today's rubber does come from these beautiful bouncy broads. These regal rubbery rascals are recognizable by their gorgeous, gigantic, thick, leathery, darkly colored, deep green, oval-shaped leaves, and by the pokey, eye-catching leaf sheaths that adorn the tips of each of their branches. These sheaths are usually red or orange in color, and each one encases a tightly rolled up future leaf. This lovely leafy lady here I call Happy Plant, and she's doing really well right now. I just brought her home from a nursery a couple weeks ago, and so far she's fit in just fine. This leggy lass here I call Sad Plant. Hey, we're gonna change it at the end of the video, okay?
Oh my gosh.
Can you not wait for like 2 fucking seconds? Jeez. Now, I acquired Sad Plant through other methods that we're going to get into later. I'm sure that right off the bat you'll be able to pick up on several visual indications that she's not doing quite as well as Happy Plant. Over the course of this video, we're going to get into why exactly it is that she's not doing real great right now, but also formulate a plan to get Sad Plant back on her feet. Or I guess roots maybe?
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, if all goes well, she should be fit as a fucking fiddle in no time. Okay, people. In just a second, we're gonna get these leafy green vixens out of their nursery pots and into something a little bit more comfortable. And then we're gonna cover all the juicy details as far as how exactly to keep these elegantly elastic leafy green bitches happy and healthy. But listen, before we get into all that shit, be sure to subscribe and turn on channel notifications so you don't miss out on any bad graffiti, worse jokes, wacky macrame, or pretty good advice about how to take care of your houseplants. Okie dokie, lads and ladies. When it comes to watering these stately green sisters, be careful never to overwater them. Give the soil in your plant's container a good chance to dry out between each watering. And yeah, the time it takes for the soil in your plant's container to dry out is going to vary depending on factors such as plant size, pot size, temperature, and season, but probably plan on watering your stretchy sidekicks between once a week and every other week. If you're not sure whether your plant is thirsty, try inserting a finger an inch down into the soil in your plant's container or feeling through the drainage hole to check for moisture. Also, droopy leaves are an indication that your plant is thirsty, and if your plant's leaves are turning yellow or brown and dropping off, then you're probably overwatering it. So back the fuck off, okay? Why don't you take that big ugly yellow watering can of yours and hit the road. As far as the soil preference of these glamorous gummy green goddesses is concerned, they need a potting mix that drains well and allows their roots to breathe. We're going to use what is called an indoor mix that should achieve exactly those conditions. And when it comes to choosing a container, there is also a lot to consider. Ficus elastica are kind of like goldfish in that their growth will be restricted by the size of their container, which is great news if you want your little tree to, I guess, stay low, because you can just keep it in the same size container for years. If you want your trees to grow though, then you should go up in container size when repotting these leafy lads and ladies. But listen, you shouldn't increase your container size by more than an inch in diameter, because going up in size by too much will overwhelm your tree's root system, making it too difficult for your tree to absorb the moisture in its soil quickly enough, and this can lead to root rot and other problems as well. It was a lifetime ago. Okay, lads and ladies. It's time to get serious for just a second. I want to raise awareness about a very important issue. One thing you don't need to consider when selecting a container for these stretchy green sisters, or really I guess any houseplant, is whether or not to pot that plant into a draining container. Listen, okay? Listen. Every year across the globe, non-draining containers account for the loss of a staggering number of houseplants. Many of those losses could be prevented by the use of a container equipped with, you guessed it, a drainage hole. Now, when these containers were purchased, they did not have drainage holes, but luckily for these plants, this houseplant guru extraordinaire knows exactly how to change that. We're not going to get into the specifics of that process in this video, but I have uploaded a couple of other videos that go into what is probably way too much detail as far as just how to sanctify unholy glass, clay, and ceramic pots by equipping them with their very own drainage holes. So yeah, feel free to check out those videos if you want to learn how to drill holes in glass. Yeah, doing my job. Now, these broadleaved beauties do like a lot of bright light, but they prefer indirect sunlight or filtered sunlight. Getting the right balance of light is especially important if your stretchy green sister has been endowed with any kind of variegation, such as in the case of this Ficus elastica tricolor. Keeping your plant in the right light will go a long way to ensure that the leaves are as vibrant and eye-catching as Mother Nature intended. Or at least as vibrant and eye-catching as the botanical scientists in the tissue culture lab intended.
Oh my gosh.
In any case, a bit of direct sun early in the day is fine, but too much direct sunlight will eventually scorch your plant's leaves, especially if you thrust it upon them without giving them time to acclimate. Too little sun, on the other hand, will result in a lanky looking plant that may just end up dropping some of its lower leaves and end up looking a little bit like, alrighty people. While I did acquire Happy Plant from an actual nursery, Sad Plant here was rescued from a dude named whose name I plan on bleeping out later because I don't want to embarrass him on the internet. Don't worry about it. Anyway, for a long time, Sad Plant was kept by on a dresser across the room from a north-facing window, where Sad Plant was getting nowhere near enough sunlight. Also, while never did say specifically, the extremely droopy state and dull sheen of the few leaves still attached to Sad Plant at the time of the rescue seemed to indicate that it had been at least 6 to 8 weeks since had given Sad Plant any water at all. Shh. Over the course of the last 4 weeks though, I've been very careful to water Sad Plant correctly and slowly acclimate her to a spot where she gets just the right amount of sunlight. And yeah, I know what you're thinking. Y'all are like, but Smitty, what are you gonna do about those long wiggy stems where Sad Plant has lost so many of our dark green thick leathery rubber plant leaves? Listen lads and ladies, okay? I got a plan. Now, I've never tried this before, but I did read on the internet that you can encourage the growth of new leaves where old ones have been lost by, with a very sharp knife, cutting a little notch in the old leaf node. Okie dokie. Now, these freaky funky ficuses prefer lots of humidity, but will tolerate dry air just fine as long as you water them correctly. They also should be perfectly happy at room temperature if kept indoors, but can be kept outdoors as well, though consider bringing them inside if the temperature threatens to rise above 80 degrees Fahrenheit or drop below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. These rubbery green rascals can be fertilized with any general purpose water-soluble houseplant fertilizer. This is the fertilizer that I plan to use on these gummy green goddesses, though I don't plan on using it anytime soon since the potting mix that I added to their containers already does contain a little bit of fertilizer. Don't feed your rubber plant more often than once every couple of weeks though, and fertilize them even less often if they are kept in a low light situation. Also, they should only be fed during their growing season, which occurs between late spring and early fall. Also during their growing season, these leafy lads and ladies can be quite easily propagated from cuttings and by air layering. To propagate from cuttings, simply chop off a piece of tree from the end of one of your tree's branches that has at least 4 leaves and 6 inches of actual stem. Once you've got your chunk of tree, remove 1 or 2 leaves from the base of the cutting, dip that cutting into a rooting hormone, and then nestle it into a container filled with moist potting mix. Then, in order to seal in some moisture to keep your cutting from drying out before it has the chance to develop its own root system, cover your fresh potted cutting and its new container with something see-through, such as a clear plastic storage container or a giant glass jar. And make sure to keep this whole setup somewhere with lots of bright but indirect sunlight. That level of light should be strong enough to fuel the photosynthesis of a new root system, but not strong enough to dry out your little rubber baby before it has the chance to root down. If all goes well, your cutting should develop its own root system within 2 to 3 weeks. And to propagate these leafy lasses by air layering, with a very sharp knife, remove an inch of bark from one of the branches of your tree, about a foot from the end of the branch, so that you have an inch long length of naked wood. Then dust that naked wood with rooting hormone, wrap that fresh dusted wood in some moist sphagnum moss, and then wrap the moist sphagnum moss in some plastic wrap. When wrapping the moist moss in plastic wrap, be careful to do it in such a way that the moisture won't escape from the little moist moss pod. Then, if all goes well, within 2 to 3 weeks, some roots will have developed at the naked zone below the moist moss pod, and you'll be able to chop off that branch and pot your new tree into its own container. Real quick, I do apologize for the verbal walkthrough as opposed to an actual rubber tree propagation time lapse, but listen, these salty stretchy sisters are just babies, okay? And this one's in recovery. Also, they just got repotted. Okay, so I'm not about to hack them up just yet. Don't worry though, that video is gonna happen someday. Listen though, okay? Listen. Don't fucking eat these plants. They are toxic. Toxic to cats, toxic to dogs, toxic to humans, toxic to horses, probably toxic to hedgehogs and goats. So don't eat them and don't feed them to your fucking pets. Okay? Got it? Can we move the fuck on? Jeez. I mean, really though, how fucking weird is that? Pests that commonly infest rubber plants include aphids, scales, spider mites, and thrips. I recommend checking your plants for these and other types of multi-legged motherfuckers every time you water them, because whatever infestation you find, you will have a much easier time battling those freaky leggy exoskeletal buggy bitches if you recognize the threat early. If you plan to treat your tainted tree indoors, I recommend using a horticultural oil that will suffocate the sap-sucking saboteurs as opposed to attempting to poison them with some kind of chemical. Also, be sure to treat your infested plants a good distance from any precious family heirlooms or antique furniture. Don't worry about it. And as far as diseases are concerned, if you're keeping your stately green sisters indoors, then the only disease that they're likely to encounter is root rot. Listen though, that should be very easy to avoid as long as you water your broadleaf beauties correctly and keep them potted in draining containers. Okie dokie. Now, I mentioned earlier that I don't want to keep calling these two bodacious bouncy broads Happy Plant and Sad Plant forever, but listen, rather than naming these plants myself, I thought it might be fun to leave that responsibility up to you. So yeah, if you want the honor of naming one of these two elastic leafy allies, then leave a suggestion in the comments, and if the name fits, we'll make it official and give you a shout out on Instagram.
I hope everything that's going right.
Fuck yeah, thanks Chloe, that's a great idea. Hi. Listen, do you like bad graffiti, worse jokes, wacky macrame, and pretty good advice about taking care of your houseplants? Well then fucking subscribe. Thanks Lady Space Cowgirl, that's right. Click that notification bell too so you never miss a new video.